What up guys, Miguel here of Yugatech, and in this smartphone comparison we are pitting two of the latest released mid-rangers out in the market today. That's the Samsung Galaxy A50s versus the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Starting off with design, the A50s sports a glass-stick back and comes in some funky prismatic colors, evolving Samsung's take on the holographic aesthetic. You also get a triple camera setup here stacked vertically and placed on the top left corner of the back. The Note 8 Pro on the other hand gets a glass back protected with Gorilla Glass 5. Our unit is in the jade green color and overall it makes the device look premium. Here we get a quad camera setup stacked vertically and placed on the upper middle. We also get a rear-mounted fingerprint sensor at the very bottom of the main camera module. In front, both devices utilize each manufacturer's take on the dewdrop notch. Of course, Samsung calls this one an Infinity U display, reminiscent of the Essential phone, while the Note 8 Pro gets the suaver style dewdrop, the one Samsung calls the Infinity V. Nonetheless, both devices get a notch, and if that aspect breaks it for you, time to look somewhere else. For I/O, the A50s gets a noise-cancelling mic for speakerphone up top, a dual SIM card tray with dedicated micro SD card slot on the left side, volume rocker and power button on the right, and a 3.5mm audio jack, USB Type-C port, mic for regular calls, and a single downward-firing speaker at the bottom. For the Redmi Note 8 Pro, up top we get an IR blaster and a microphone for loudspeaker. On the left is the hybrid dual SIM card tray, while on the right resides the volume rocker and power button. And at the bottom, you'll find the single downward-firing speaker, mic for regular calls, USB Type-C port, and a headphone jack. So yes, in terms of design, both devices look good in their own right. They both get dewdrop notches and they both have headphone jacks. Although in terms of overall aesthetic, I do prefer the A50s. For display, the Galaxy A50s utilizes a 6.4-inch Full HD Plus Super AMOLED panel with a resolution of 2340 by 1080. The Redmi Note 8 Pro gets a 6.53-inch Full HD Plus IPS LCD display with a resolution of 2340 by 1080 as well. For display protection, just like its back panel, the Note 8 Pro utilizes Gorilla Glass 5. The A50s, on the other hand, technically has an unspecified version of Gorilla Glass, but it's safe to assume it gets Gorilla Glass 3 protection just like its predecessor. Now, when it comes to general viewing and media consumption, I'll be blunt, the A50s is better. Having a Super AMOLED panel, colors look vibrant, contrast is punchy, and blacks are deep. Not to mention, this panel is also brighter than the IPS LCD one found on the Redmi Note 8 Pro. Though I must say, the Note 8 Pro doesn't have a bad panel per se, colors are accurate, and overall contrast and white balance are very good. So for display, it's going to be a tie for me. Now hold up, before you guys spread some hate in the comment section, yes, I just praised the A50s's display very much, but the whole unspecified Gorilla Glass thing got to me, and what if you guys like to rock your devices nude and have butterfingers? Then that extra Gorilla Glass 5 protection might come in handy. For audio quality, both devices get a single downward firing speaker and both aren't the best. The A50s produces an average sound signature that kind of lacks in both the highs and lows. The Note 8 Pro can get very loud, though at max volume, the sound can come off a little bit distorted. But of course, it's good to know that both devices still have headphone jacks, and if users plan to binge all week, I recommend you guys take advantage of that port. Checking out performance now. For hardware, under the hood of the Galaxy A50s is an Exynos 9611 chipset coupled with a Mali G72 MP3 GPU. The Note 8 Pro utilizes a MediaTek Helio G90T coupled with a Mali G76 MC4 GPU. For software, both devices get Android 9 Pie out of the box with each manufacturer's respective skin on top. That's One UI for the A50s and MIUI 10 for the Note 8 Pro. Now, here in the office, we actually like both One UI and MIUI. Truth be told, they're actually quite similar in many aspects. By default, they look very minimalist and appealing. They both have an interface-wide dark mode that a lot of people love, and a slew of added functionality that both Samsung and Xiaomi wants to gift to their users. Either way, both these devices can practically handle anything you throw at it, from simply browsing the web to editing photos and moderate gaming. For benchmarks, I have them flash on screen now. Overall, the Redmi Note 8 Pro's gaming-centric chipset takes the cake here, which leads me to give it the crown for performance in this comparison. Checking out them batteries, the A50s sports a 4000 mAh cell while the Note 8 Pro gets a bigger 4500 mAh one. In the PC Mark battery test, our A50s got a score of 9 hours and 40 minutes, while the Note 8 Pro scored 11 hours and 12 minutes. In our standard video loop test, which entails the phone being in airplane mode, 50% brightness, 50% volume, and with earphones plugged in, the A50s got got us 13 hours and 14 minutes of playback, while the Note 8 Pro got us a total of 17 hours and 10 minutes of playback. So for battery, we obviously have to give it to the Note 8 Pro for its bigger battery and better scores. For security, we get face unlock and fingerprint scanners on both devices. The A50s gets an optical in-display fingerprint scanner that has improved from the original A50, but it still isn't as fast as the Note 8 Pro's rear-mounted scanner. For face unlock, they're about the same in speed for my use, though come nightfall, I did notice better recognition from the A50s. So for biometric security, it's a tie. Checking out the cameras now. The Galaxy A50s utilizes a main triple camera setup composed of a 48 megapixel main shooter, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. The Redmi Note 8 Pro features a quad camera setup made up with a 64 megapixel main shooter, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide, a 2 megapixel depth sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. Residing in both devices' respective notch is a 32 megapixel sensor for the A50s and a 20 megapixel one for the Note 8 Pro. Checking out some samples now. In this first shot, we're using the ultra-wide on both devices. Dynamic range seems to be a bit better on the Note 8 Pro, but I'm gonna give it to the A50s for contrast. Surprisingly, I'll also be giving it to the Note 8 Pro for color reproduction. The A50s's cooler white balance seems to be the cause of this. It's also worth mentioning that you do get a wider field of view on the A50s's ultra-wide. In this next shot, we're using the main sensor on both devices, and I'm not really liking what I'm seeing from the A50s. These photos were taken strictly on auto, and dynamic range is actually almost on par here. The thing is, the A50s tends to overexpose the highlights, while the Note 8 Pro seems to want to save as much shadows as possible. Same thing can be said if we jump into both devices ultra-wide, and from the perspective of someone who likes to edit photos before posting, I think of the A50s's shots as something I'm always gonna wanna lower the highlights on or lower the exposure level when taking photos. The Note 8 Pro shots, on the other hand, is something I'd wanna raise the shadows with. For portrait mode, subject background separation seems to be alright on both devices. They both have trouble blurring out stuff in the foreground. Again, also notice the difference in color reproduction. But aside from that, I think they both look generally good, giving this one to the Note 8 Pro for an overall sharper image though. When it comes to some portrait french fries photography though, the A50s takes the cake. For portrait selfie, subject background separation appears on par once again. Main differences will be color reproduction, and at this point, it really is a user's preference. Same can be said for regular selfies, though do note that you will be able to crop better on the A50s's 32 megapixel sensor. For night mode, the A50s tries its very best, and honestly, they don't look the worst in this category, but I'm gonna give this one to the Note 8 Pro as well. Highlights are better preserved as well as details in the shadows. So for cameras, it's gonna be the Redmi Note 8 Pro for me, and I do believe that the A50s can get better with a few software updates. But at the time of this comparison, the Note 8 Pro just did a few things a tad bit better. Before we conclude this comparison, we gotta talk about price. The Samsung Galaxy A50s gets a price tag of 18,990 pesos. That's for 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage. Our Redmi Note 8 Pro, on the other hand, gets the same RAM configuration with 64 gigs of internal storage. It cost us 13,200 pesos from Shandi, though I think it's worth mentioning that for a little more, you can get the 128 gig internal storage variant for 14,700 pesos. Now, clearly based off those price tags, the Redmi Note 8 Pro resonates better with your wallets. And compared to the A50s, you get better gaming performance, battery life, and camera performance from the Note 8 Pro. So, what do you guys prefer between the two? Samsung's Galaxy A50s or Redmi Note 8 Pro? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell icon so you get notified of future uploads. Be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel. I've come down with a cold. Sorry I sound weird in this one. But again, I'll see you guys in the next one.